Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to talk to Shelley Kasten from Not Just Numbers. She's the owner and the CEO, and she's been in the bookkeeping industry since 2005. She's a wealth of knowledge. She's got a ton of great resources. It's awesome. You'll get to learn what she wanted to be when she grew up. I think you might be surprised, but we'll see. She's just an overall good human, and she's our bookkeeper, and it was always just done a great job of kind of explaining how things look and how things work. So if you've got a small business, you don't want to miss this. It's the next episode of Talkin Shop.
So I wanted to be a cashier when I grew up. I remember telling my mom when I was 5 that that's what I wanted to be.
What was it about being a cashier at 5 years old? That's a unique one. Normally you get doctor or a superhero or whatever.
Yeah, but I grew up in a military family. My dad was always gone, and I was the oldest of 4 girls.
Mm-hmm.
And very responsible even at that age. I remember feeling very sick to my stomach when my sisters weren't getting to the bus on time. Just very much a worry wart.
Yeah.
Very anxious.
You were the extra parent.
I was.
I've got one of those. I've got a 10-year-old that's an extra parent, and I frequently have to remind him, like, I'm good.
It's okay to let mom be mom. Or dad be dad, yes. But I think it was because my mom had a daycare in her home, and I knew I didn't really want to do that because we always had to help. We had to clean every night.
Yeah.
They all left, and so then we would go grocery shopping, and that was my world. So all I knew really was cashier. So it was that was very interesting to me, looking back how it kind of went from being a cashier to doing accounting and bookkeeping. It kind of like flowed a little bit.
Yeah. And how old? You said you were 5?
I was 5.
So you were like 5 years old, like, commerce. Like, this is where I need to be.
I like money.
Yeah. That's such an interesting, like, unique situation. Because I think when I was 5, I had no idea. Actually, my mom did find, it's funny, probably like first grade and kindergarten, so maybe 5-ish, right? She found this letter. She gave it to me on my 18th birthday. It was this handwritten letter that I did. It had to have been in kindergarten about what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I think I said, like, I wrote, like, and I will have a helper to help hold him down. Like, hold down the dog, like, while I was, I don't know, giving it medical attention, I guess. So I guess, when you're 5, you start kind of, those questions start to kind of come together and formulate for you.
Yeah, because that's what your teachers do in school.
Yeah.
They're part of those little projects. And even nowadays, they have those little, chalkboard things that, first day of school, all these things.
Yeah.
One of the questions are, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it probably stemmed from that, I'm sure.
I'm sure. That's awesome. So you wanted to be a cashier at a grocery store, and then fast forward. So did you go to college for finance or anything like that?
Nope, sure didn't. I helped when I turned like 15 or 16. I became a nanny. I was being homeschooled, and so I was able to work outside the home and bring my schoolwork with me. And so I've worked since I was like 15. And then I helped my parents in a Christian school. I was raised to kind of be a pastor's wife and a mom.
Mm-hmm.
But out of necessity, I always had to have a second job. And school, 9/11 happened, and the school went more to volunteer status versus being paid.
Yeah.
And so I actually went to work for a temp agency and got a job at Bank of America in the credit repair department. And then after that, I went to an insurance company, was doing data entry.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Wisconsin, and I was an administrative assistant. And the first day I started, the person I was supposed to be helping no-showed, so I became more of an executive assistant to the owner.
Oh, wow. Like day one.
Like day one.
They were like, HR's over there, and now here's your new job.
Yes, and they were very much a small business. They did countertop fabrication, so they did granite and marble countertops and laid tile. And so I helped him and started scheduling everybody, and because I knew who was going where, that's how I started in QuickBooks, and I started invoicing. And then their CPA ended up leaving about a year later, and she turned everything over to me, and boom, I got a crash course in accounting.
This is the best way to learn QuickBooks, by the way. I remember
It
when I first started my business, I think I was using, oh gosh, I was using FreshBooks,
is.
if you remember that. I don't even know if it's around anymore, invoicing software. And then I was keeping like a Word doc or a spreadsheet or something with some expense report, like some really rudimentary, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew that that was something I had heard people talk about was expense reports. I was like, I think I have to make that thing. And I was using Freshie Sites. And then I met a bookkeeper and they were like, yeah, so where's your books? And I went, I have Freshie Sites for invoice and I have this Excel sheet where I sort of keep receipts. And they were just like, no. And so they said you have to get QuickBooks. It was desktop at the time, and I had to go and hand input and reconcile like every transaction that I had had for the prior year. It took me like 6 months.
Oh wow.
Because I got no direction. Like YouTube this is seven years ago, so there wasn't a lot of like content resources. So I was just like, I guess I'll do.
Yeah.
It took me so long, but I got every invoice. They actually made me do like the last year and a half because I was doing like running the business freelance, like part-time a little bit.
Yeah.
So I had to do like a year and a half, add every expense and every invoice and redo everything one piece at a time and then
They didn't
reconcile.
offer you to do it themselves.
I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to hire them to do it, so I had to do it myself. But yeah, that's the best way to learn, right? Just
It is. It is. I am very much self-taught, and then
Yeah.
fast forward several years later, I decided to become a pro advisor, and I had self-taught myself everything, so I took the exam and passed. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now I do both. I coach because just like you can't always afford it, to have somebody help do the project right away. And so I want them to do it and do it correctly. So let me
Yeah.
show you how to do it. And so offer coaching.
I think that was something that really appealed to me with your business model when we first met was like I've worked with plenty of bookkeepers and CPAs and stuff, right? But they've never had this option that was like, I want to empower you with knowledge. And so we have this coaching program where I'll teach you how to do certain things. So, because it is important, like it's important you have a, fundamental knowledge of your books, right? You
Right.
can't just rely on somebody to do it and just be blind to it. That's not smart business practice. So I think that was something that I thought was really unique and interesting. And we're really big at that at my shop too, like empowering a client, once we're done with a website build, like empowering them to know how to use it and how to write their own blogs and reach out to us if you don't have the time or don't want to mess with it. We can bill you, but we want to make sure that, you're comfortable in there too. So I always really appreciated that about you.
Yeah, education is huge, even to my partner. When we're doing tax returns, especially with a first year client, we sit down and we go through the numbers because we don't want you just to look at your tax return and go, oh, okay, and just sign off on it. You need to understand that this is how we got here, and this is what you were allowed to take. This is what you weren't allowed to take. This is how this flowed here. This is how that flowed there. And so that it's just really big to us. And I just feel like, you said knowledge is power, and you can't just, people get in a lot of trouble when they just blindly say yes and follow and not understand your numbers. And, oh, my CPA did that. Well, the CPA is not being audited. You are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not that we can't help you. We will, but, you're the one who is, producing the data, and where did those numbers flow from? Where did they come from? Where are your receipts?
Yeah. And that's, something that I've always I've always done. Like a CPA is at one place in a book. Like I've always kept the two separate because I'm like, I know, I only know what I do know, right? And I know a decent amount, but I'm like, there has to be checks and balances and accountability. And so when whether it's, if you have a different CPA and then a bookkeeper and then yourself, or if you're going to file your own taxes and you just have a book, like you have to know what you're looking at because, if you just assume they're right, what if they're wrong? You would never know until you get in some trouble. So that was.
I have it both ways. I have it where some of our clients are like, yeah, I trust you. You know what you're doing. You're doing the books. Go ahead and file the tax return. But I absolutely love the clients that go, yeah, you're doing my books. Here, this is my CPA. Work together with her. I love that because that means that somebody else is looking behind just to make sure that
Yeah.
we haven't made an error either, because we are human, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
But there's that level of, yeah, this looks great. No, let's switch this to this. Are you okay with that? Absolutely. You're the one signing your name to the tax return.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yep.
Like I really love that approach, and I think so many, and a lot of business owners, like in their first year or so, they don't even know that there's a difference between bookkeeping and a CPA. They think it's, they're like, it's my CPA. They're doing my books. Your CPA is probably not doing your books. Honestly, they're probably sitting around waiting for you to turn something in, and they're gonna go, all right, where is everything?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to kind of distinguish that for folks, is to know that it's important to have somebody doing both of those things. So that's awesome. So usually when I'm talking to folks, I ask to give like 3 tips they wish small business owners knew before they got to you. So do you have like a little bit of advice, a few things you can kind of sprinkle in?
I think one of the main things, especially in QuickBooks online or even the desktop, if you have those bank feeds flowing, that doesn't necessarily mean that your books are reconciled to the bank statement. And that second step is crucial, because bank feeds don't always come through 100% of the time, and you could be missing a key expense that you thought was downloaded that really isn't. Some softwares don't allow that, or once you've hit the category, it kind of automatically reconciles it for you. There's, I think Xero does that, but they also give you that final ending bank statement balance that should match that bank statement. So there should be a cross check in that piece of it there.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. And that was something that was hard for me to learn with QuickBooks Online. I was like, yeah, I synced my bank account, we're done. And it's like, no, like it'll do its best, right? But it's still AI. It's still gonna. So just noting that, like, okay, there's gonna be some stuff that's left over that QuickBooks was like, I don't know what this is, and you're gonna have to take time, and so it's important, like, because most receipts are digital now. So like on our Google Drive, we've got our folders like July statements, August, and so go through and pull up your PDF, like your bank statement, like you said, and run through that stuff and match it, because you can't just rely and hope that QuickBooks will get it right. Because even if they do sync, the accounts, I mean, we've gone through stuff and been like, this was totally wrong,
But sometimes they'll recategorize it, especially on office supplies, or Amazon. Like, you ordered something from Amazon, it could be a fixed asset this time versus a regular office supply. So,
yeah. And so for some folks that might not know, like an office supply on Amazon, like you were saying, hey, I ordered paper for the copier, right? Office supply. So fixed asset would be what, like if you ordered a piece of equipment or a laptop or something like that, right?
And the rule of thumb right now is between, and I think they're raising it to like $5,000. But between for the last couple of years, it's been sitting at $2,500. So anything less than $2,500 could automatically go to office supplies. But if it really is a piece of equipment, like a printer or a fax machine or something, a lot of those are less than that $2,500. You need to make sure you're keeping that fixed asset list separate outside of QuickBooks, because you'll need to use that when you do your property tax form.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely, the first time I did a property tax form, I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be tracking how many laptops I buy? Laptops all the time, they're everywhere. And so that's definitely something that I'm like, oof, I wish I had known to do that kind of preliminary work ahead of time, right? Because then you have to like scurry and go backwards and be like, wait, when did I buy that laptop? I bought that one used. Okay, how much is it worth? So that's a really great tip. So what's another one that you can kind of give to help folks out when they're getting started?
I would say for small business owners that are doing accounting or the bookkeeping themselves, that you should schedule time weekly to actually touch it. Because if you don't, it's just going to compile and you just will get frustrated, and then you're going to have like 6 months worth to do it one time, and it'll just be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And then you'll freak, and then you have to pay somebody. So schedule some time every single week to touch those books, even if it's just for an hour.
Yeah, been there myself. I mean, you know that. Like, we've been in a situation where I said, okay, I'm going to take over this aspect of it. And then I slipped and was like, now I'm 3 months behind. All right, Shelley, how much is this going to, get me out of this? Because it's true. It's absolutely true. Like, if you don't take the time and as I mean, that's part of running the business too. So, like, mine, for instance, is Friday morning. Like, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. is like my bank time. I try to leave it pulled off my calendar. People can't book time with me. I get in the office, I close my door, I get my coffee, I sit down, I put on headphones, and pull up my bank, and I do that we've got our business operations set up where all incoming finances from clientele go into an operations business account, and then we export money. We do a transfer from there every Friday, a lump sum amount of cash into a payroll account, so we can cover payroll and then try to build surplus on it. So every Friday morning, I go, what are my bills coming up in the next week? How much do I need in the operations to sustain those bills? What's surplus in the operations? And then I move that to payroll. But then I also will go through and try to go through my chart of accounts and check and just update that stuff for you guys. It definitely, because even if you leave it for a few weeks, you look and you're like, now I've got 97 transactions to figure out.
Yeah, and it's just overwhelming. It just really is. And if it's not something that you're really used to doing, it makes you anxious and you start to freak.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the important habit of doing that every once a week, like I said, for me, Friday morning, you catch things too. I've caught something. I'm like, wait, what the heck is this thing? Like, because if you wait a month or 2 months, you might see a $17 purchase on Amazon and go, I'm sure it was something I bought, right? But if it's only been a week, you're like, I didn't buy something on Amazon for $17 last week. I was able to find, I found out, there was some recurring subscription thing that I'm like, I didn't even know we had that. Like, my kid bought it by accident, and so, but if I had not been actively checking my bank statements, it probably would have slipped my mind, and I probably been like, I'm sure it's something that the staff needs, and you move on.
Right.
You could be leaving, tons of cash on the table every year just from forgetting. So,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the third thing would be, accounting doesn't really come naturally to everybody, and it's really okay to know your limits. And if you need help, to ask for it, not be embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
I have my job because I'm very good at it. You have your job with websites because you're great at that. I can't draw a lick of anything. Like, it looks like I have trouble drawing a stick figure. That's how bad it is. And so I think everybody, and it's okay to know your limits and know that a small business owner can't really do every single aspect of everything that needs to be done in a business.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I say, and I actually said it to a startup client this morning. It was giving him, just some mentorship, and something I always say is delegate what you're good at and excel at what you're great at, and what I mean, with it, when it comes to like a vendor, right? Like a bookkeeping vendor, outside vendor or something, like, you should be good at what you're doing, right? You should have some foundational knowledge of the system, understand it. And as soon as you get a good understanding of it and you have the financial capabilities, hire a person to do it professionally, and when I was trying to do my own books, and I realized, this is years ago, it's like 6 years ago. And it was just me, really. I was the only employee. We've got 5 now. I was like, okay, I'm billing $95 an hour for my for design service. That is not what we bill now. Just, but back then it was, hey, I'm billing my clients like $95 an hour for design. All right, my bookkeeper person that I had met charges like $150 a month to do the reconciliation and all that stuff. And then I went, I'm spending 5 hours a month trying to figure out where 10 cents went. That math doesn't work.
No.
I should be spending that 5 hours billing $95 and pay somebody $150 a month to take care of everything. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the realization, like, oh, you might feel like you can't afford to hire a professional, but really, in certain situations, in bookkeeping especially, you can't afford not to.
Right.
And it does take, it takes a little bit of liability off, like, I'm not a professional. I'm going to screw something up. And, but if I have someone taking time and looking out for me, you can rest assured it's if they're professional, it'll be done a heck of a lot better than you'll do yourself.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. I think people don't realize that, hey, I can do it way faster than you can, and you could be spending those however many hours it takes you to actually work on it.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably take me half as long
Yeah.
in most cases, and you can, bill somebody else whatever that is working on their project. So
yeah, absolutely. So well, if people want to learn more about what you do, can you give us some information, what your business is called, and give us a website and stuff like that?
So our business is not just numbers. We do have a website. We do managed service packages, which means that we take a look at whatever it is that you would like for us to do for you, and kind of put you in a package so you can budget every month. And you're not going to get an invoice from us that is, 10 hours one month and 2 the next. We're gonna, just kind of bill you every single month the same amount unless you increase or decrease your services. We offer coaching as well for those that want it in QuickBooks Online and desktop. And my goal is in the next year or two to get certified in other softwares as well, so we can add that to our resume. And we also do tax returns for those that want that piece of it as well.
Awesome.
Tax planning, things like that.
Yeah. And what's the website? Was it
the website address? Notjustnumbersinc.com.
Awesome. Well, Shelley, thanks so much for taking a few minutes and hanging out with me and answering some questions. I genuinely, like I said, I genuinely appreciate your business model and the fact that your drive is not only to give good service to business owners, but to also educate them in something that is pretty darn important. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you giving me a few minutes, and have a great day, okay?
Thanks, you too.